All right. Hello there. Welcome to a cat stream. Trans women are racist. So tonight we obviously have Magic Bollocks with us today.
Hello.
He's busy eating a Snickers at the minute. He wants that diversity. He wants some transgender nuts. We also have Ogre with us as well.
I brought a fat doobie with me. I'm already to spark it up. In case you're curious today, this will be Blue OG from Barney's Farms. Thank you very much.
It's always Blue OG.
One of my favorites, but it's not always Blue OG. Last time it was the tail end of my what the hell was that? Not Pineapple Express, was it? Oh, Super Silver Haze. No, yeah, anyway. But yes, so who cares? This is not the weed stream. Let's just pretend nothing happened.
It's turning into one, apparently.
Let's not do that.
Well, as everybody can see, we've got a good selection of stories to come up today. We're going to start off with the Trump story. And I just wanted to say to a previous member of our panel, I was right, you were wrong, suck my dick.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
I do, but I won't say. Mercy. Yeah, well, some people, they have a problem, and I think our first story illustrates the problem, and it will be interesting, possibly. In fact, I'm sure that we'll talk a little bit about this first story on Monday when we go over to my channel, because we're going to have the weekend to analyze it. We're going to be able to see CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS. We're going to be able to see everyone try to put their spin on this, where they went from, and before I get away, I guess I'll say this once you introduce the story. I'm getting out ahead of myself and trying to do your job, common sense guy.
Sorry. That's not a problem with me. I mean, you've basically screen shared it for a while now. You can see what the title is. Or you could see what the title was.
Sorry, it should be there now.
Just make sure that screen sharing. Yeah, there we go. Basically, yeah, you can see what the title is. It's Trump and Kim talks show U.S. strategy is working. Vice President Pence says, which is basically what I was saying when everybody was talking about the fire and brimstone that Trump was going to bring on Kim Jong-un if he was going to use any nuclear weapons against the US. And with that kind of, should we say, a play on force, that has now put a bully back into his box and is able to come back to talk, because he knows that somebody that is apparently mentally unhinged, as what CNN and everybody else say that he is, obviously Trump we're talking about, is probably going to actually do something like that. So obviously Kim's now decided that it's a good idea to come and actually talk. And obviously with the Paralympics and the Olympics and that, it seems that it's a good idea at the moment. So just like to say, is it again, I was right, you were wrong. Ha. He did know what he was doing.
And I have to give a tremendous shout out to BBC News. The one thing I could say is that I do watch quite a lot of BBC News, whatever they allow me to watch, because they're pretty tight on their, they don't let people share their stuff. They're very tight on their, controlling their brand and keeping their copyright under their thumb. But this is something, the title itself, Trump-Kim Talks Show. Now, they said U.S. strategy is working. And this is Mike Pence that's saying this. Excuse me. So when I say they, I mean, it's Mike Pence saying the U.S. strategy. So it appears that even Mike Pence is reluctant to say Trump's strategy, because let's face it, the only reason we're seeing this is because of Rocket Man. You think that Kim Jong-il, whatever the hell, whatever, and I know this is ill, excuse me, but you think that he doesn't know? You think he doesn't read the tweets? You think he doesn't see it? He sees that shit. He's got ministers that's job, their whole job is dedicated bollocks. It's like, it's what your job would be if Common Sense Guy was Kim Jong-un and I was his lovely sister. I can't remember the cunt's name, the one that was at the Olympics, and I was his sister. You would be our minister of fuckery. You see, and you would be the one that was in charge of going out and sweeping through all of these things and then bringing us the social media of the day and saying, well, look here, your godship, whatever they call him, this is what Trump said. This is what this person, oh, look, somebody over in South Korea we can get to said that your haircut looks funny. We'll have him killed with a VX gas attack. And without me going on too long, this shows, because the whole point of me starting to talk was to say that even Pence says that the U.S. strategy shows, that this demonstrates that the U.S. strategy is working. This is Trump's strategy. I'm not going to call it 4D chess. I'm going to call it what it is. This is a master manipulator, a master level manipulator. As good as I think I may be, it's difficult for me to say. So I'm just going to come out and say it's the him and haw like I was just doing. I am not qualified to carry Donald Trump's speech into the room and hand it to him, let alone give it. The guy is a miracle worker. The way that he uses words to twist people and to contort people into doing his will is nothing short, folks, of amazing.
I mean, obviously you're American, so you're obviously going to play it up a hell of a lot more than what it is, so to speak. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still an amazing feat. I wouldn't go so far to say that he can walk on water or anything, but this is definitely his strategy, and it was definitely the way that he talked to Kim Jong Un. Fuck's sake, thank you, Ogre. It was definitely Kim Jong Un.
You gotta remember, it's like you're trying to take a dump.
Exactly. But yeah, it was definitely the fact that the way that Trump talked to him, that it was the fact that these talks are now happening. It would not have happened otherwise. If you go halfway down the page for us, please, Ogre.
Yes,
I just wanted to show you something because I've read the story a little bit.
The bullet points?
No, a little bit further down.
Fast bullet points.
A little bit further down.
Moon's huge gamble. How did we reach this point?
A little bit further down. Sorry.
No problem.
There we go. Where they could meet. If you just pull that down so people can see where they could meet.
Oh, where they could meet. There it is, right there. Where they could meet.
So, as far as I'm aware, they've already suggested that they were going to talk in South Korea. As far as I'm aware. So now the BBC are now trying to suggest that they're going to talk in international waters. So Donald Trump and Kim Jong Un are going to talk in international waters. Somehow, I don't think Kim Jong Un's going to do that.
They're not. They're going to meet. We all know in the demilitarized zone, there's a building that stands right on the 45th parallel. And on that building, one side is North Korea, one side is South Korea. You can enter the south side from South Korea and not be in North Korea. And they meet at a table that is honest to God. The middle of the table is the line. And on one side of the table is North Korea. And that's where they'll meet. They will reach across that table and they'll shake hands. But I'm willing to bet anybody $5, and I'll take up to 10 bettors that want to bet against me that is where they meet.
And I agree with you. I think that they're going to meet in the North-South Korea divide, so to speak. And if they're not going to actually meet in that building itself, they'll meet in South Korea. It's as simple as that. They're not going to go too far. Yeah, they're not going to go too far.
Do you think there's a possibility of China, common sense? No possibility? Because I was thinking that if not that, it would be South Korea. But do you think there's no possibility that would be like Shenzhen, China or something like that?
I don't see why. It has, I mean, I know it has ramifications for the rest of the world, but I don't see why China would be hosting talks between...
Well, because Trump is snuzzling up with it. Look at what's going on right now. He's using... I don't think that we'll ever impose 25% tariffs. We'll see. If we do, I will be disappointed in my president. But look what's going on with China right now. He's smoozing up to him. He's letting stuff leak out about him saying, oh, the president for life was so great. And we all know that he doesn't believe... No. So... That's why I thought, without getting too far off on a tangent, I did consider that maybe because no one could complain about that if it was in China.
I think a lot of people would complain that it's in China because it's a case that it's supposed to be a treaty of negotiating truce, a proper truce between North and South Korea to begin with, and then it's going to be talking about the de-escalation of the nuclearization of North Korea. So it wouldn't be something that would benefit China in any way whatsoever, because you'd have to have Donald Trump and North Korea actually being able to agree to all of this, as well as South Korea, because it affects them countries. So it would either be in North Korea, South Korea, or in the US. Now, Kim Jong-un's not going to leave North Korea or South Korea to go to the US. He would send a delegation to the borders of South Korea, definitely, but he would not leave to go into China either.
Man, he knows what he does to political prisoners. Common sense. He's not going to leave his country. Period.
Exactly. I mean, you look at how his brother died.
Yes, VX gas.
Exactly. He's not going to have that opportunity, and if he does go to China, there's that opportunity.
Well, and then if he comes to America, warm beer. They pulled a freaking parasite out of Warmbeer's penis that was 27 inches long. They beat him and they injected him with chemicals that turned him into a fucking vegetable. So if I was him, I wouldn't go to the country where that young man, because you never know. I mean, it would be very easy once he was on our soil for his parents to say, I want him, see what I mean? And not that it would happen. But I'm still saying this. This is sound. I'm going to go with what you said. This is sound. If it's not, I should know. I should have at least looked it up by now. But so regardless, it's either going to be at the demarcation zone, at the demilitarized zone in between North and South Korea on the 45th, or very close to that South Korea. But man, I would be willing to bet $5 to 2 people that it ain't gonna. I cannot believe that is going to leave his country, boys. It ain't gonna happen.
I can suggest one place they could meet that I'm sure Trump would be very up for. How about Guantanamo Bay?
Yeah, hey, you could hand him a menu while they were there. Yeah.
Something tells me that he'll be very, very complicit once he's spent a couple of days there. But isn't the sudden change of heart on their part of the Chinese putting pressure on to change his stance in the hope that Trump might back down on the tariffs slightly? I know that it is getting a bit not that Xi's ever going to come out and openly admit that there could be a slight issue for the Chinese if the tariffs are slapped on more things than just steel. But because as far as I'm aware, the only country with direct links or contact to North Korea is China at the moment. No other nation can talk directly to the big man himself. So I think if there is any sort of change of heart on their part, it's definitely coming from the Chinese government themselves. Well, before I go any further, I'd just like to say, hello, Mr. Frodo.
Hello, Mr. Frodo.
Mr. Quinn, you owe me 10 quid.
Yes. And I think he owes you 20 because you got me to say it also.
I have to slightly disagree with your Magic Bollocks. Not because of the principles that you said. I think it's a good idea that the principles that you stated, that it does affect China, what's going on. But I think that the smokescreen that's been put up is that they're talking about the denuclearizations to begin with, and then it's going to be a point of talking about tariffs and things like that. I think that we should just really be more worried about the actual point that he's now willing to talk, which suggests that he's actually in a very bad pickle. He's in a very bad situation. So he's not necessarily cornered and dangerous, but is in a point where he now needs the rest of the world. And I think he's even now losing that delusion where he now thinks that he definitely needs to have the rest of the world.
Yeah. Well, I wonder sometimes because, I love President Trump, but I'm going to tell you some of the things he says and does, it puts me on edge. He's an unknown quantity. So I sometimes wonder if the end result from this, we don't want consolidated power. That's one thing that we don't want. We've dealt with that. Our culture has with the kings of England. We've been through that with the Earls of Scotland or wherever the hell they were over there. we've been through all that stuff. The barons, what? Yes, we've been through all that stuff, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to say this: when I do hear him joking to gain favor, and I know it's a joke, I think about the video of Ted Cruz, Lion Ted, talking about, oh, I'm going to be ruler of the world one day. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that came out. There was a video of him there, and his buddy was recording, probably just being a jackass, would be my guess. He was like, yeah, one day I want to be ruler of the world. Well, it was so off-putting to a lot of Americans that hurt him. He was already losing, and he probably would have lost anyway, but that hurt him even more. We don't like the idea of consolidation of power. There's a reason we do the stream on 3 different channels right now. It wouldn't matter to us right now if Common Sense Guy hit the big time and was just like anybody else, hit the right nerve. People tuned into him and just loved the way he did his stuff because he is good. And then boom, 30,000 subs in a couple weeks. It really wouldn't matter to any of us here because of the balance of power, the way it's set up. The only way it would bother you here or in the United States or in Great Britain is if you wanted ultimate power. Man, so boys, that's what's got me. The more I see him win, the more I do, my suspicious conspiracy nature wants me to say, well, is he the one that will enact martial law when it's time to give up the Oval Office? Is he the one that will, who knows, pull something fucking crazy? No, it's probably too crazy for y'all. I don't know.
No, there's definitely a possibility of doing that. It's the same as if Hillary Clinton got into power. We would all be saying exactly the same thing. She would end up causing a war and end up causing, as you quite rightly said, a martial law situation where she would have to take emergency powers and so on and so forth. I'm sure that she would do that. But if we can think that of Hillary, then surely we can think that of anybody.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
After all, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So no matter what you think of the person going in, will that power actually change the way that person thinks? And it will do. It's inevitable.
In fact, that's the only rule to which there is no exception in my mind. That absolute power corrupts. And, you can finish and say absolute power corrupts, absolutely. But power corrupts. When you give someone power, we see it time and time again where good people, James Comey, everyone said he was so much integrity. He was a great, look at the shit he pulled, man. I worry about Reese Mogg. What could happen to a great man like that if he does end up attaining the brass ring, as it were? Would I see that momentum turn into something horrible that I can't stand to consider?
But that's the point of being able to give those people power, because we're supposed to trust power. And that's the reason why we're only supposed to give them the 4 years, so that they know that they're not absolutely powerful. And the reason why they have a democracy, a republic, or a form of government. Because if they didn't have that, then they would be the supreme ruler of those countries. And that's the reason why we drag them down with a government. So they're not all powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Good points.
Well, I got nothing else on this, boys. Well, no, I was just going to say that's the reason why you see people like Kim Jong-un, who are the supreme leaders, the supreme rulers of their country, completely and utterly changing over. Yes, they have an illusion of a government, and yes, they have an illusion of people voting for them. The same as Assad and a couple of others. What was his name in Iraq?
Saddam Hussein?
Yeah, that's the one. Saddam Hussein, winning at 99.9% of the vote and 100% of the vote. And you just look at that and think, yeah, there's no way that can happen. Physically, no way that can ever happen. And it's just a case, you look at those type of things and you think, yeah, that's just a forced government. But that's the reason why other countries go into different countries, as well as obviously a hell of a lot of other things. But that's just unfortunately the way that power is. Power can corrupt you, yes, but only if you allow yourself to feel that you absolutely are in control of what's going on. I think there's a saying, once you think that you're in control of something, generally you're not.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's like anything with an addiction. If you think that you're in control of an addiction, you're generally not in control. And power is an addiction.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've heard people say, I'm gonna drive my motorcycle. They must be new at it, because you don't drive a motorcycle no more than what you're talking about.
No,
There's certain things. You ride it. You ride it. Amen. Thank you. And there's other things, and you know, people think they hold the reins of power. You don't drive the United States of America. You fucking ride that eagle. You do not drive the empire of Great Britain. You ride that dragon. There's certain things you just can't drive. If you try to drive it, it will drive you into the ground. Look at our past leaders that have ended up that way. Look at yours. Look at the kings that have fallen that way. Hell, I'd hate to say it, but all you got to do is look at France. They just love to cut people's heads off over in that some bitch, man. They cut the some bitches off like it's nothing. Naples. Look at what happened look at what Nelson pulled that shit, man. I mean, he was over there in Naples and he got up with that fat woman. And he's humping some dude's old lady, and because he was, I hate to go there. I love Lord Nelson too. Don't get me wrong. But he was humping this woman, and because he loved king and country, and he loved the idea of the monarchy, he was a royalist. Man, they were supposed to release all these people. He kept them on his ships and then sent them up there to Naples 10 at a time and hung them bastards. Hung some of them with midgets sitting on their shoulders. You can't even make that up. But we all know that Lord Nelson.
That's the point of power corrupts absolutely, isn't it?
Yes. We know that he was a great man, but he tried to drive that. He tried to drive it, not ride it.
Yeah. He tried to control it rather than letting it control himself. Think of it as a surfer riding a wave. He's not riding the wave. The wave is pushing him. There's a difference.
Yes, big difference.
And then that's the point of democracy. Democracy pushes you or propels you into power and keeps you into power. But at that same time, democracy can take away that power. And that's the reason why a lot of people, apart from people like Tony Blair, who decided we're going to go to war without even a fucking vote, but whatever on that one. Democracy isn't fucking perfect, unfortunately. But it's the damn near most perfect thing that we have as a form of leadership.
Elected republic. I would say gently, that not democracy. That's a really wasted, terrible form of in fact, I would say that parliamentary rule. I think that the British folks, look, and I'm just being argumentative now, and we got other stories, but British people had it honed before we did common sense. You lot had it honed before we did, and we tried to tweak it. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure the way that we elect our executive is the best. I do like the idea of a completely, Republican ideal as you have, the parliamentary system where the members of parliament elect the prime minister. That just keeps the freaking bloody people out of it. And as much as I hate to say it, because I'm one of them, that, as far removed as you can have the lulling masses from the actual decisions, the better off you're going to be. With all due respect to you lot there in the chat too, we're all a bunch of morons. We think we know what's right, but 1 minute we'll agree on one thing, the next minute we'll agree on something else that's completely different. That's the way we are.
Then in that case, then that means that we shouldn't have a vote on Brexit, and we should have left it to the people in charge.
Oh no, but see, that's where I think that okay, good point, but common sense. That's where you actually have swayed my way of thinking, because you were saying the other day that. Well, you were right, Ogre, because you said, well, what if Manchester or Luton or something wanted to, and then now that I guess it was something in your country, I cannot remember the city, but you were saying somebody was,
It was Yorkshire. Yorkshire have now a football team, and they're trying to make it into their own country.
Right. But in the end, I think that you were right. Well, fine, let Yorkshire fucking vote on it. And then give them an ultimatum and say, okay, look, Yorkshire, you really want to get out of the warm embrace of the mother country of Great Britain? Okay, all right. But in 6 months, if you decide that it was a really foolish move, we will welcome you back as the prodigal son returning. I mean, maybe even give him a little bit more time, maybe a year and 18 months, and say, and at that point, you could come back and it'll be as if nothing ever happened. Now we will increase your taxes 5%. Across the board. No.
Or if you Donald Trump 25%.
But yes, and all jokes aside, but you get the idea. because I learned something in our debates. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I started thinking about all the cities and all the counties and all the states and everything. Well, on that level, the people should be able to decide what they want to do. If they don't, because that's deciding the government, okay? But once the government is decided, whatever the people want, I say that the best one, common sense, is the parliamentary system that we see exercised in Great Britain. We see it exercised in Australia, in Canada. I believe in, I'm going to leave it there because those are all the ones I'm sure about.
New Zealand have it as well.
New Zealand, but not here. We have an elected republic, and we put it way closer into the people's hands by allowing them to every 4 years spend billions of dollars to reelect a puppet figurehead. Just doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, politics in itself is just more of a clown show more than anything. It's quite interesting. Whatever form of politics that you want to use, you can have your socialistic ideas of government, you can have capitalist ideas of government, you can have parliamentarian version of it, you can have the republic version of it, you can have cooperatives if you want, whatever form of government that you have, it always comes back to, do the people have a vote? If they do, how much of a vote are they allowed? And I think that's the point where we always go wrong. The problem with democracy is not the point of being able to have a vote every time that something comes up. Because if we were going to do that, that would be called direct democracy. Hi, Ogre.
Sorry. Phil, that was not intentional. Fiddling with some things, getting some stuff set around here. The sound part, I'm not a sound guy, and trying to get the sound stuff arranged sometimes gives me hell, especially after 4 gin and tonics. And this is my 4th one. Man, they're so good. It's the quinine, I think, that gives you that little extra.
It is. It gives you that little bit of a warm kick, makes you feel a bit healthier.
Mm.
But yeah, that's the problem with a direct democracy. The fact that you have to waste so much money on actually deciding what, where, when, and how. We as people don't actually know the ins and outs of politics. No, not even people like myself that are really into politics. We like to pretend we do, but not all of us know everything that's going on in every detail of politics. I wouldn't have a clue what's going on in the economical sections of politics. I'd have an idea, like most people would, but I wouldn't have a proper clue. Which means that I shouldn't really have votes on what's going on the economical side of things. And that's one of the problems with a direct democracy. And that's the reason why Parliament actually wins out quite well. We vote for the people that make not decisions for us, but we choose to make decisions for us. And I think that's the difference. We don't elect people to make decisions for us, but we elect them to choose to make decisions for us. I think that's the best way of explaining a parliamentarian government. Not unless anybody else wants to say something, or are we going to move on to another story?
No, I think it's time to move on, common sense.
Yeah, we are dragging, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm ready. I will get the next one ready, Chief.
No worries. For me, I'm interested in this one because this one is an alien atmosphere created on Earth. I'm very looking forward to this one because I do like my science. Ogre, as he well knows, sometimes every now and again I'll put up a bits about comets or asteroids and things like that. But I thought this was pretty good. Alien atmosphere recreated on Earth.
Yes.
I thought it was very interesting. I would before we go into the story, what does everybody actually think about actually recreating different atmospheres?
Well, it would depend upon how they do it and on what scale. But of course, in very controlled small scale, yeah, in a little plexiglass container and MIT science lab, yeah, have at it. As long as doing that doesn't create some chain reaction, blow the eastern coast of the United States off the face of the earth. But because I don't know much about this, when you say create atmospheres, I'm assuming that certain chemical and certain chemical reactions could happen, chain reactions, and other. Because in fact, you're opening this up, and now I'm floundering because it says alien atmospheres recreated on Earth. when they say that, I don't know what I would like to know more what they mean. In other words,
to be fair, the title actually contradicts itself, because then it says underneath the picture, researchers have recreated the chemistry of atmospheres on distant planets for the first time in the lab, according to 2 new papers.
Yes. Yeah, and that's where I'm at. That's so that is, I mean, in that case, that's cool. Do whatever they want to do. They're just monkeying around. It's nothing to affect me. The idea of creating, look, folks, everybody wants to talk about, well, this and that, but we want to see them create life. I don't want to see human beings create life. How do we know what it would be? I mean, not even the idea of Monsanto's using viruses to incorporate Roundup into living organisms. We know those things as genetically modified organisms, and put it in corn, soybeans, and turtleback. All these different food items. I mean, that's crazy. We don't know what. So the idea of making things that are alien, that aren't. I don't know. I always get that creepy feeling I get when I watch iRobot. It's like what do we want to unleash on the world? Was the telegraph a good thing? Was the phone a good thing? All these things are used against us? Remember in the old days, boys, you could get drunk, fuck a whore, well, maybe not with consent, and shoot her like husband down in the street and ride off, and nobody had a telegraph or anything. If you could just go and then change your ways, and what was wrong with that? Oh, justice. And what? Justice is fucking, oh, I'm going to get another drink.
I do find this story actually quite interesting. I'm just going to read it as long as I can. Ogre keeps the thing up there, which hopefully is still presenting. It says they found that hazes such as the hydrocarbons that shroud Saturn's moon Titan can be produced on a class of exoplanets known as super Earths and mini Neptunes. Chemical hazes and clouds can influence surface temperatures and the potential for a planet to support life. That is very fucking interesting. If it can do that for even supporting any sort of form of life, not necessarily us, because having us doesn't necessarily mean our form of life. There's particular things that can even breathe in carbon dioxide. There's even things that can breathe in methane gases. There's even things that go right next to sulfur gases that can breathe that in underwater. So there's lots of things that can be classified as life, as well as obviously microorganisms as well. But if they can do that on a planetary scale, which I'm not suggesting that this study is saying that, but it is kind of suggesting that they might be able to at some point, that would be very interesting for the exploration of our solar system, let alone planets in other galaxies. And I think that's very, very interesting.
Man, there's only one reason anybody wants to do anything, and that's to see how many more people they can kill in the next war. So when I look at this, I wonder, who's funding this shit? And I appreciate it. I mean, I'm listening to it. Yeah, your wide-eyed, childlike enthusiasm, rushing headlong into the brave new world. I don't share it. Common sense. I'm too old. Maybe it's just, when you were reading that, you're like, oh, that's, I'm reading that. I'm like, holy fuck. They're going to make something where new organisms could grow and unleash some shit. And I want to stress, I don't mean some chimera that's 30 feet tall and, Gorgon-like trampling through fucking Tokyo. I'm talking about something so small you need a microscope to see it, that would wipe out the human race. And in this day and age, I'm watching this worst place on earth to travel, to fly. And there's all these British people, every damn last one of them British damn near, or either British or Kiwi. And they're in Papua New Guinea. And even if something like that happened, Some folks think that it can't reach across, but we get avian flus here that start in the middle of butt fuck nowhere China. There's some fucking Chinaman ain't never even seen any technology but the airplanes that fly overhead and still think that they're gods. He gets some shit. He digs up some shit one day. He hits his plow. He's pulling with a musk ox and a stick tied to another stick as a plow, hits a rock and pulls it over. And in that alien environment that was best left undisturbed, some noxious gas exudes. And in the midst of that gas is a very malevolent.
Well, that's where they found anthrax, didn't they? In the permafrost that killed fucking tons of deer.
Oh, yeah. Well, anthrax, that was bad in Scotland. Anthrax is everywhere, too, by the way. Most people don't know that, but it's in your lawn. If you have sheep, you're in bad anthrax. But, dude, that killed a lot of people. Yeah, you just kicked me off my train of thought, and that's fine because I was running out of steam. But, yes, anthrax is a very good example because it wasn't until they started to gather up the sheep droppings to sell as fertilizer. For some reason, it never happened when the farmers were using the droppings to fertilize their own crops. But when they started to try to market their shit, people started getting anthrax and dying left and fucking right.
Yeah, the reason why I suggested things like that is because, as you are suggesting, we don't even need to actually have an organism that actually comes to life, so to speak. All you really need is a form of virus to come from that planet that's been developed on that planet, and we will not have an immune system for it because it will be diverse to that planet.
But common sense guy, virus is a form of life, sir.
No, I understand. I just meant it as you're saying something very small. I'm agreeing with you.
Well, but imagine if the rover on Mars tomorrow sent back information that said it found a bacteria, which is smaller than a virus. Bacteria. It would be, holy fuck. You know what they would call it, right? Alien life.
Of course. No, I'm agreeing with you. But what I'm saying is that could then be brought back. And then because we don't have an immune system towards it, i.e. like the War of the Worlds.
Have mercy.
I.e. like that, where we've been able to adapt to the common cold, so to speak. And obviously the aliens weren't from Mars and they all died because of it, so to speak.
Yeah, well, see, now you're on the same page as me because War of the Worlds come with these big old fucking things with the like laser beams, but the War of the Worlds could honestly take place on a microbial level.
Of course it could. Quite easily. Quite easily. But I'm still very, very excited for the idea of being able to find and produce different forms of life and strains of life. And I'm still very excited about the whole ideas, the experiments that could be taking place. But at the same time, I'm still fearful because these are the things that, like having robots and AI, you have the negative side where it's going to take away people's jobs and the potential of forming Terminator, Skynet.
With this, you got the idea of taking people's fucking lives. Bollocks, you ain't saying shit about this? This is fucking crazy talk to me. I mean, I love you, common sense, man, but holy fuck, you're talking the idea of discovering new life that, I'll be honest with you, even the idea of discovering new life on this planet, I've already given a couple scenarios. I could give 50 more, so I won't bother. It's exciting to me, but it's exciting in the way that I'm like, holy fuck, that could end humanity. All of our discoveries, when we were going and discovering new lands, and we found this new land, there's engines there. Either they gave us shit and killed us off, or we gave them shit and killed them off. It's always ends badly, discovering new stuff, because as you said, we don't have any way to cope with it. We don't even know what we're dealing with. And if I may too, MCJK made a great point. If what I said happened and the Mars rover did find some life on Mars, no, we'd kill it before it ever left the planet. And I kind of argued with MCJK about that one day, probably about 4 or 5 months ago, pretty extensively. I mean, knock down, drag out, good debate over it. But I have to say he was right. The United States of America and the world, we're very good at fucking destroying whatever just think about the happy people up there in the Targa in northern way up in the north of Russia, living up there. They left during the start of World War I. And the guy took his family, went way up there. They were just getting to the end of everything. All their china was broken. He was using his last hoe, and it was nothing hardly left of it. All their tools were worn to a nubbin. And then these people found him up there. I don't know if y'all know what the lady still lives up there. She's 80-some years old. Anyway, when they found him and discovered him, they gave him some kind of minor flu that everybody killed every fucking one of them, but this one old lady just left. Killed her mom or dad or killed everybody. Yeah. So it's Discovery. It all seems good and exciting, but holy fuck, can't we just be happy with where we're at?
But that's the point, though. We've always explored. I mean, we look at the planet and everything else like that. We've always explored. We've always done that as a race, where we've always, or any sort of race. It doesn't matter. As a human race, we've always done that as an exploration. We've always moved out. We've always looked. We've always tried to fill spaces, so to speak. And
yeah, we're bloody too inquisitive for our own good. I know you'll never see it, mate, because you're the kind of guy. You're the kind of guy, common sense. If you woke up tomorrow, you're getting ready to go to school. You have a plan. I know you, man. You've got a plan set in your head. You're executing it. It's working well. But if somebody comes up to you and said, you know what? We are not telling many people about it, but we noticed that you were on this carnival ride and we've been following you and you're smart and you don't get seasick. We want to do a few tests with you, but if you're okay in a zero weight environment, we're shooting people to fucking Saturn to study the rings on Saturn. Probably you probably not come home alive. You'd be one of the first to sign up. Be like, oh, fucking A. And we need people like that.
I wouldn't be like that at all. If they said that I've got a chance, I'm going to come home, then yes. I'm not putting my fucking life on the line for fucking research that's not going to fucking matter that I wouldn't be able to do.
Well, but common sense, guy, the idea is that they're going to tell you're going to come home. But as we both know, throughout space exploration, that is a meaningless platitude. Because you don't know if you're coming home. Hell, we don't know if we're coming home when we jump on a 747, let alone something bound for Saturn. And it's the point is that you love exploration. And when you get old, keep exploring, folks. We're dying, us white folks and us Western folks. Us black and white. I shouldn't even have said white, because to be honest, it's us Western folks. And geniuses come from every race in the Western world. But we're dying because of people like me. Let's take the easy way out. Keep out there, keep exploring.
But that's the thing, though. Taking the easy way out doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to die out. It actually means that we actually keep ourselves alive. Well, that's the difference. Where people like myself, yeah, I may want to explore and find out what's going on in the world and do whatever. But generally, I'm going to be the first person that dies because of me being inquisitive, as in curiosity killed the cat. Hence why I'm in a cat avatar.
That's perfect.
But that's the point. The people that generally go forward normally risk their lives by going forward. What is it? The strong will fight for the earth, but the meek will inherit it.
Yeah, true. Well, because they weren't there getting killed in the battle, right? I mean, it's as simple as that.
Exactly. All the exploration. It still works in every sort of form of context that you want to put it. Yep. They didn't want to do the politics, so they didn't fight in the battle that let Muslims take over. So they are now just servants. And now the servants are now taking over. It's just time always wins out. The meek do generally inherit the earth.
Yes, sir. Yep. Well, I got a little bit more on this because it could go in so many directions, but whenever you're ready, boss, just let me know. And I do have the next story cocked, locked, and loaded. I feel like, you know what, bollocks, drink some more booze or something. You ain't said shit.
It's generally because I couldn't give a shit less about this than I do. It's generally, to me, this is the kind of waste of time science that occasionally they put out saying we're doing this, and you damn well know they're just doing it because they can. When there's in another 10, 20 years, fuck all will come out of it, and it's just a case of scientists doing stuff just to try and justify their jobs and their what's called wages. And I'm just not a big supporter of things I look at and think that's a waste of fucking time. That'll never go anywhere. So,
well, where should they? So you do have something to say then, smartass. Where should they put? where should they put their? Where should they?
I didn't say I was the man to tell them what to do. It's
but you got an opinion, and so as you're listening to us, what were you thinking? Where were you thinking the money could have gone?
I was happy that common sense was excited about it because that's somebody from the opposite end of my spectrum, which is it's good that some people have the interest because if they all had my opinion, then a lot of stuff would never have happened. But I've always been the type of person. What's that? Sorry, common sense.
I said, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course, you can, mate.
Do you not think that taking away from the point of being able to create atmospheres on a different planet, do you not think that it would be a good idea to be able to make a synthetic atmosphere, for instance, say, I don't know, in a container underneath the sea? So you could be able to transfer the idea that's going into space and be able to use it so we can colonize different areas of the planet.
Common sense. I do agree that yes, it's a good idea, but we're coming from a species at the present time. We're in the early 21st century, and we still haven't created a wig that looks convincing yet.
Just ask Donald Trump; he's got one.
No, mate.
I tell you what, think about this. If you really wanted to make some money, that's what you'd figure out is how to make a bald man. Because I tell you, if somebody was like, "Look, no shit, give me $5,000 and you can take this pill." And you'll have a full head of hair. Now, I like my bald head. I won't lie. But there's something about a full head of hair that a guy, when he ain't got it, it's because you ain't got it. It's just like anything else. I gave that motherfucker. I write him a check right now. So let's face it. If it was about like finding something that people are interested in, why don't they come up for a cure for a dry vag or a bald head? Because we already got the boner problem solved. We got that dicked. Yeah, I mean, you take one of them little blue pills, man. You don't even have to need them. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I know from experience, you don't have to need them. You take one of them little blue pills, it'll make that some bitch get so hard it hurts a little bit, like when you were 15. Like it hurts a little bit. So we've got that dicked. So I mean, we could cure baldness, or yeah. Anyway,
yeah. That was more of an analogy more than anything else, Mr. Rogan. But I'm glad that you took the ball and you ran with it there. It's very nice, sir. I think what I was just trying to say is that I sort of my faith in human science. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have come a long way. It's just that I think there's a lot of, especially with scientists these days, you'll very often read like something in the science section or watch a science program from like 20 years ago with all these great things that were going to be happening in the near future, and 30 years down the line nothing's changed, and you realize that a lot of scientists do a lot of research on things knowing damn well it's never going to go anywhere, but knowing it's going to easily take up 6 months of their time and help them gain extra funding from whoever might see this as some kind of possible future endeavor that might make him some money, but the scientist knows full well that it ain't going to go anywhere, but it's given them money anyway. And I'm one of these people. I hate seeing pointless activities. I mean, I see it every day when I'm at fucking work where, I'll get given an instruction to do something when I know there's a lot of a simpler way of doing things, or having to do the same job twice or something like that pisses me right off. So when I see what I believe to be time wasting, it annoys me. But I'm not the person that would tell these scientists what to do. So by all means, go ahead and create the otherworld atmosphere. I might be proved completely wrong, and in another 5 years, we might have exactly what common sense was suggesting, and I will hold my hands up and say I was wrong. But it just, to me, what I'm reading there is just another load of scientists doing something for the sake of doing it, as opposed to wanting to progress humankind.
Yeah. To be fair, as we've always said, everybody's entitled to opinions and everything else of that. It's what makes the world fucking go round, isn't it?
But I'm glad you are excited, though, common sense, because, like I said, if it wasn't for people like you, mate, I said we wouldn't have got very far at all.
But I'm easily excitable. I'm like a little kitten.
Really?
I wouldn't say that.
So
I would say this. The next story will definitely be, I think, up your street. Magic Ball. At least you might find a little bit of vitriol to spit over the idea.
If it's about my good friend Owen Jones, and yes, by all means.
No, it's the yeah. I got to leave it to.
Which one is it?
Well, because I have to leave it to Common Sense Guy to introduce.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, we'll introduce this one. This is our third story. So at this moment in time, we now have the first female British models to be able to wear the hijab, while people in Iran and other places like that are taking it off and saying it's a symbol of oppression. People in the West are saying that it's a symbol of freedom. What the fuck are feminists going on about?
Yeah,
I wanted to play a little video there, but I realized I can't because it's BBC. I don't want to get any trouble here.
When was it? Was it the first of this month or last month when they had to burn the hijab day in Iran?
It was this month, first of this month.
First this month. Now, don't you think that would have made a much better Women's International Day, which is all standing with their oppressed sisters in the Middle East?
Yeah, like burning bras, yes.
Yeah. Instead, they want to wear pussy hats and claim that they're oppressed in one of the most freest countries in the world. Apparently, they're being heavily held down because America decided to put the better of the two candidates into the White House. But because he didn't have a vagina, that's effectively tantamount to sexual abuse.
Only if he grabs it.
Well, again, I suspect he would happily do it if they were good-looking gold diggers. Most of the women on those marches, no. They might be gold diggers, but the attractive bit, they're certainly not.
Well, I find this story absolutely, full of hypocrisy, really. This is basically just an agenda that's written by feminists for some reason. I don't even know why. That's the most annoying thing. Feminists are now trying to perpetuate the same idea of saying that, they had hijab is there as a symbol of freedom. Fuck off, is it? If it's a symbol of freedom, why the fuck are so many people trying to burn it off in Muslim countries? Do they even look at the world? Do they even understand what's fucking going on? Like, they're actually having first burning of the hijab days and freedom of hijab and everything else like that. I just don't understand the world anymore. I want to get off.
I think it's just like you taught me common sense, which is they call themselves feminists, but they aren't really. They're Marxists, aren't they? And you cannot slag off the Muslims because they are a protective minority, aren't they?
So, see, I would say that they're not narcissistic. I would say that they're masochistic. I would say that they want to get with the worst form of ideology that's completely objective to their ideology, work with it, and then see it being eaten from the inside out.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if Sharia law ever did come in this country, the first thing that would be gone would be the feminist movement.
Yeah.
That's the great irony of it.
The only movement that you'd get if you have Sharia law in is head movement, and that'll be rolling.
Yeah, ideally if it's on a non-flat surface. Yeah,
exactly. Let's play football, eh?
So yeah, it is very strange. There's sort of the mindset of it, which is these Western feminists have a sort of like an uneasy alliance with the Muslims, but you're right, it doesn't make any sense at all. They should actually be completely against the idea of Muslim law taking any kind of hold in this country.
Yeah,
maybe there is something in that thing about that, even the feminists, like a lot of women, actually crave for what they see as powerful men, and now that they've cucked most Western men, they're sort of crying out for dominating, highly oppressive men to sort of, deal with them, I suppose. I mean, I hope that's not it. I hope it is just the case that they're all just Marxist morons who just see the Muslims as oppressed, so they must be protected even though their ideology is completely at odds with their own.
Well, going into conspiracy theories and things like that and delving into that type of crap, feminism is a form of cultural Marxism. Or classical Marxism, depending on your definition. All it is putting people into different sections, i.e. intersectional feminism, put them into different places and different bits and pieces to be able to go, well, you're more oppressed than this person, you're more oppressed than that. And for some reason, they have decided that Muslims, even though there's billions of them, are the most oppressed species in the fucking world, to the point that they now have an Islamophobia, because apparently they're racist, even though that it's a religion, not a race. So that just shows you how they are indoctrinated into the idea of the Marxism ideology. But it's quite funny in itself if it wasn't so scary. to the point where when you mention that these people in Iran and places like that are burning the hijab, are coming out and saying that it's a case of they don't want to wear the hijab because it's a symbol of oppression, you get Western feminists coming out and saying, yeah, that's just propaganda. That's just propaganda. That's just the West peddling ideas that is supposed to denigrate Muslims. And you just look at that from just our point of view, for instance, where we can't say anything about Muslim as an ideology or Muslim anything because we'll get put to prison because it's hate speech.
Mhm.
But yet we're still considered that we're talking bad about something that we're not even allowed to talk about. That's an interesting point.
I think it's not just one thing, is it? It's multiple things, and I always suspect that Saudi Arabian money is filtered in there somewhere. The thing is, a lot of these groups get funding, and they don't tend to question where the funding comes from, do they? It's like, how many far left organizations actually really know, especially ones who claim that they're all about embracing socialism, taking on the rich, only to find out a certain billionaire is actually funding their activities. But it's the great hypocrisy of it all when you look at it from the outside. And because if you were to, I wonder if you really took all these really indoctrinated feminists, the ones who completely believe in the movement, and you drop them into a predominantly Muslim country, and they were there being beaten and gang raped, and are they so indoctrinated that they still wouldn't allow themselves to accept what was happening, saying, you have the right to do this because my people have oppressed you, rape me because I deserve it? Would they actually be like that, I wonder?
No, because then you have the idea of self-preservation. The fight to survive is then stronger than the ideology you have in your brain.
Because the thing is, I see things like that. As I think I told you before about that feminist mother in Sweden who actually refused to allow her daughter to go to the police to tell them she'd been raped by an immigrant because she was worried that the immigrant would be deported. She was putting this fucking disgusting piece of shit before her own daughter, before her own ideology.
Yeah. Let's see. So that's not about survival. If it would have happened to her, she would have then changed her ideology. But because it's happened to somebody else, she's been able to detach herself from the ideology and probably thought, well, my daughter's the slut, and encouraged it, apparently. But I don't know the story off the top of my head either. So I'm guessing that's something that she probably would have thought. So I'm not saying that is what she thought. But that's just the way that some people just think, that it's a case of this is okay because they're only refugees. They don't understand what's going on. It's just like, no, it's part of the culture. It's the reason why women are not allowed to wear certain things, because in the religion, men can't control themselves to the point where they do want to actually have sex with somebody. They generally chase them for a long time to try and actually rape them if they're on their own. It's the reason why they need chaperones.
Well, going back to our original point, common sense, you, myself, Mr. Ogre, and I'm sure everybody who's listening to us won't be able to make the first bit of sense about it. It really is the ultimate form of virtue signaling, which is a supposed group who fights for the equality of women, wants to wear one of the most oppressive symbols that a woman can wear in the world at the moment. It is probably one of the most ultimate expressions of hypocrisy that I've seen for a long time.
For sure.
What's that? Is that her wearing the Christian cross? You know, as the most oppressed symbol in the world at the minute.
Well, it depends on your definition, because does the Christian faith at the moment oppress women in the same way that, say, the Muslim faith does?
No, I was trying to crack a funny by saying that.
So I thought you were playing devil's advocate there. Common sense.
No, definitely not. Not on this subject. No. Not on this subject. No, I was trying to crack a funny by trying to say that even though that they're allowed to wear hijabs, most Christians are not allowed to wear their crosses. Now, I'm not a Christian, But if one religion is allowed to wear their religiosities, then surely another one is.
But there's the thing, you see, the Christian faith is associated with the white race, isn't it? That's how they see it. It's the white man's religion, so it must be ridiculed and destroyed.
Well, of course, because the white dog is a piece of shit and garbage, and nothing that he's ever done is worth a fuck. The Sistine Chapel is a pile of dog shit when you look at a cave drawing done by some indigenous nigger from the middle of Africa. You can't even stop to consider any of the wonderful things that any white man has done. It's all bollocks when you think about the invention of using shit to light your campfire.
Yeah.
Stop I didn't quite expect that, but well done.
But no, Ogre does make an extremely good point. To the point where people, obviously a certain person that used to be on this panel, the Britisher, did an amazing video about white culture. The fact that we do have a culture where so many people actually say it's a case of we don't have a culture. White men don't have culture. Yeah, everybody has a culture. Every race, every religion, everything has a culture.
That's the best video Britisher ever did, Common Sense, and you know it is.
By far. Definitely,
you know it. That's the most beautiful thing, and I recommend that. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to send a link out. I don't care if he does want me and my family to die. I'm going to tell you something. If you watch this video, give me 2 minutes at least. If you watch this video and you haven't seen it before, and your heart doesn't swell up, I don't care if you're black as midnight or if you're lily white as the fucking driven snow. I don't give a motherfuck if you come from darkest Peru, Papua New Guinea, London, England, or New York City. Doesn't matter. If you watch this video and you see the juxtaposition of the Western culture, Greece and Rome, the rise of Western civilization with its artisans, with its creators, with its great tinkerers. You don't have a soul. You don't have a heart. You don't have an excuse to breathe if it doesn't move you. And the idea, and if when you watch it, and of course I'm preaching to the choir, I'm just trying to get up on my soapbox. But if you watch this and you say to yourself, oh, white people have no culture, they stole it all from whatever. I've already made my ridiculous comments. I'm not going to make them again. Then you're a fool in the bargain. So I'll go find that because it is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful pieces and probably not probably, it's in my top 5 best things I've ever seen on YouTube is the Britisher. White people have no culture, ?
Yep, he puts a hell of a lot of good effort into that video. Is a really good
the sad thing is the lad who's in it, the one who actually says that what's called white people have no culture. You can just tell that he's just repeating the shit he's had put into his head by some university lecturer, some fucking Marxist arsehole.
I want to be sure. Trying
to tell these own kids to hate themselves just because of the color of their skin, and to me, it's not child abuse. It's just abuse, telling people to hate themselves for something they cannot help. I mean, if we had a lecturer who was telling black kids, you should all be ashamed of yourself, you fucking apes, you'd be just as equally disgusted. So why is it perfectly fine for these fucking cunts to do this to 18-year-old kids?
But it's funny. You have people like Ashley Shackelford, the Black Lives Matter woman that's supposed to teach white people not to be racist. And you have other people that are like her that do those type of things in college courses where she actually starts off the course by saying you are systemically racist and you're always going to be racist. So me, if I was that type of person and was able to think that I needed that type of thing to not be racist, and I went to a class like that, and then she said that, why the fuck would I stay there if I'm going to be racist no matter what the fuck I do anyway?
When I tweeted this, I sent this out in the chat, and I'm not taking back one word that I said, but I did notice that every single live stream that Common Sense Guy and I bled and sweat and performed with him is now gone from his channel. And if I said that didn't
that hurts.
Strike me a little bit,
that hurts.
Strike at the very heart of me, I would be a liar, and I will not lie to you now. But I will say that after I saw that was a fact, because I don't stalk people or see what they're up to. It's the first time I've been on his channel in 2 months. When I noticed they were gone, I sent out the link to the, I still say, top 5 best videos ever put out on YouTube, period.
Yep.
And I still tweet it out. So I have nothing else to say. I'm not going to berate my brother. I just, sometimes you're inhuman if you've sweat and bled as Common Sense Guy and I have, and put your soul into something, and to see it shat on and thrown away like a piece of garbage it never was. Well, you know, you have to be human. So there you go, boys. I shouldn't even have said that, but I'm telling you, that struck me as common sense. You could hear him agreeing with me there. He's not gonna, because it's the way. I mean, that's putting his beak right in my heart, and that's fine. That's fine. I still love the guy. I will never take down. I have dozens of live streams with Common Sense Guy, and myself and the British are on them. You can peruse them for old time's sake. I will now drown my sorrows in a haze of sapphire, gin, and quinine, and I will keep a stiff upper lip, because if I've learned nothing from my brother, the Britisher, or from my mother island, the great empire of Great Britain, I've learned that the best thing a man can do is to be true to himself, keep a stiff upper lip, and carry on.
Before you do that, can you put on the Guardian Women protest?
Oh yeah, I ain't going nowhere. I've got a drink right here at my elbow. I'm not going anywhere. Shit. In fact, I think I've had enough.
I think it's time to move on. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of fucking died.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you've got a really good one from a site that I can't imagine you visited. So I'm going to assume, now you haven't, no one's told me, but I am privy to know that one of these stories came from Magic Bollocks. I'm going to guess, simply from the source, this is the one.
Yeah. You would guess right.
So what do we got here, folks? And then we'll go into the real shit talking, because I'm getting geared up.
Well, I'm going to let Magic Bollocks actually go on this one, because this is his story, so he can carry on with this one.
Cheers. Well, I literally perused it, but once I saw it was that little shit Owen Jones, I couldn't really resist, really. But it's effectively the fallout to do with if people aren't aware, Labour have something called a woman's all-woman shortlist when it comes to picking
women-only shortlist.
Yeah, when it comes to picking MPs, and it's produced some absolute crackers like that.
Dawn Butler.
Laura Pitt. I keep wanting to call her Laura Pillock, but it's Pidcock. And literally within about 5 to 10 seconds of them opening their mouths, you know that you've just got pure comedy gold, because they are thick as pig shit. And I think even last night's Question Time, Laura Pidcock was on there, and she said that she was on this all-women's shortlist, and yet she was still picked because of her merit. So she couldn't even see the own idiocy of what she had just said. But anyway, not only do they have this all-women shortlist, but they've now decided in their wisdom to allow trans women onto the all-women shortlist. And that includes men who identify as women. So they don't even have had to start taking the hormones. If they just decide they're a woman.
Self-determining trans people. So not even anything that's been psychologically verified.
Yeah. So literally, if you go in there, even if you look like a man, talk like a man, dress like a man, you say, today I'm a woman, you can get on the list. Now, the hardcore feminists are not happy about this.
The older feminists, the ones that are younger than millennials.
I think even some of the third wave ones are a bit pissy about it. I mean, obviously, it's more the sort of the old.
If I was looking for a bloody job and I was getting a door slammed on my nose everywhere I went, I'd go in there, especially if I was looking around at the drivel that the BBC and whatnot's pulling up these days. Mm-hmm. I would go in there. I'd pull a Klinger. What was the guy's name? Not Klinger. What was the guy's name in MASH? Dressed up like a girl. I'd go in there and be like, I'm a chick. I wouldn't even dress up. I'd wear a suit and tie and be like, I'm a chick. Tell me I'm not, fucker. You racist, you bigot, you homophobe, transphobic piece of shit. Well, you got to call them all the whole 9 yards. Common sense. You can't just stop at the one.
With that attitude, Mr. Ogre, you're definitely labor material these days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, I'd go in there with a tight-fitting suit where you could see my fucking package, and I'd be like, "I'm a chick. Look at my cock."
Hey, if you feel like a woman, then you're a woman as far as that.
I feel like hey, the minute I can't get a fucking job and support my family, and there's some talentless cunt in there that shouldn't even fucking be in the building, let alone have a job there. And I'd be like, yeah, oh, I'm up. Okay, fine. You want to make it egalitarian again? I'm a fucking bitch. I'm a chick today. You don't like it? You can't say that I'm not. What are you questioning me? I'm transing. In fact, I'm gender fluid, fucker. You got to respect gender fluid. And so think about that, boys. I'm gender fluid, fuckers. So as long as I want a job here, I'm fucking female. When I don't want a job here, I'm banging bitches at the club.
Well, the reason this story is so fascinating to me is because of the fact that Owen Jones has decided to jump on the bandwagon, because he is desperate to support anything that he considers a minority. I mean, the thing is that he's still not necessarily in the labor hierarchy good books, because he was part of the coup to try and get Corbyn out, until, of course, he did very well at the last election and now can't be out, and he's desperately trying to crawl back into Corbyn's good books and failing miserably. But this has sort of blown up in his face a little bit, because even his friends at The Guardian are turning on him because of the fact that most of the women who work for The Guardian are hardline feminists.
Man, you got to give it to you English for that, don't you?
Yeah.
What's that? What, for having hard
for the good books, the good books thing.
Oh,
because,
that.
Yeah. Oh, if it wasn't for you lot, we'd all be like, oh, okay, you said you were sorry. Okay. No, the British way isn't that you just say, oh, I'm sorry and I'm changed. The British way is saying, okay, you said that, and I'm not going to now deny you a cup of tea and a fucking, and a Dogan. I'm just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you're on, you're on, what do you call it? You're on, what do you call it? When you're watching somebody, you're on, what do you call it? If you're at work and
camera.
No. What do you call it when like you're somewhere, but you're on probation. You're on a probatory. Sorry, it took me so long to spit that out, about ruining my whole train of thought. So you're on probation now. And so that I'm not trying to derail you, bollocks. I'm just thanking you lot for the good books idea, because I'm not, that may go back to Roman, but the Romans would have said it's virtuous to just forgive. To forgive is divine. We get that from Shakespeare, but he stole that from Rome. And so I appreciate that. I like the idea that you can't just fuck me and then come back the next week and be like, and that goes into this. How in the world can you switch? So anyway, how can you switch? How can you be gender fluid? Fucking crazy, man. How about egalitarian? How about you just tear this shit down? Talk about the patriarchy. The patriarchy has never had anything on this nonsense. This pile of shit that they're trying to stuff down our throat with this Owen Jones and soy boy faggot fucks that have no idea. They wouldn't know half cock from full cock, from a boiler maker to a daggone Washington apple. They don't know how to drink. They don't know how to fuck. They don't have no artistic sense. There's no Renaissance men among them. I think of a Renaissance man, gentlemen. I don't think of somebody that can just paint a pretty picture. When I think of a man, I think of someone that will outdrink you, dazzle your old lady with his wit, push the house pianist out of the way, and play Chopin after drinking a liter of vodka, and then end up waking up the next day, no hangover. I see what I mean? And all of these things that are manly, all these things that are good, are being usurped by a pack of fucking animals that can't play a guitar, can't sing a song, can't write a poem, couldn't woo a fucking woman if their life depended on it. In fact, half of them even get into this movement because they figure, oh, if I can convince some chick that I'm this soy boy faggot that I want to portray, maybe she'll give me a blowjob. This guy, Owen Jones, has never had a blowjob in his life by male nor female, nor will he ever. And if he has, it was out of fucking pity, and it don't count.
Well, he's probably given a few blowjobs, but
Yeah, he's definitely given.
Oh, he looks like he could suck the fucking chrome off a trailer hitch.
he
But before you carry on, Magibollocks, if I may, I just
yeah,
wanted to
fire away,
make
mate.
a quick point to ogres, and that is, even though they may be soy boys, somehow they're still leading the fucking politics and economic
crazy.
races at the minute, aren't they? They must be doing something fucking right, bastards.
It's fucking insane.
Well, again, I think a lot of them, like especially like Owen Jones, is just deliberately playing the victim card, isn't it? Which is, oh, I'm gay, so I'm a victim. No, mate. In fact, I don't even think you are an authentic gay. You're just somebody who likes to wanted to find some kind of victim card because of the. I mean, he really is a actual cuck because apparently his moment of realizing that he was homosexual, so he claims, is coming home and finding some other man bashing his missus, and then deciding that he quite enjoyed watching his missus getting fucked by this other bloke.
Oh, I thought you were going in a different direction. So he comes home and his old lady's just getting pounded.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he can see the back porno shot where it's just like poon, cock, and male ass up and down. And he's like, ooh, I actually like the look of my woman getting drilled.
Washington posted a whole fucking story on it, didn't they?
That's
How,
right. Yeah,
cucking is actually beneficial for relationships.
yeah.
Apparently.
Oh, I got to remember you just screen share me. I'll get through this thing and not be.
It is a bit troubling, but he is a sign of a lot of people these days of a certain age, which is they really have grown up not being challenged about anything they think is right. You know, they're coming from the sports days where nobody lost, they were all winners, and nobody was allowed to fail in their exams. You know, they all had to pass. And you get to adulthood with that mindset and being told that what you think is right is wrong, and you can't take it. You have tantrums. You go off and call these people every name under the sun. And if you and if you get the mindset as well, which is there's some good money to be made out of being a victim.
Bloody hell.
And this is where these people are all coming from. You know, I think old Dave Cullen did a video about his theory that this is the
Kilroy forever.
This is the daycare generation that's coming through. The ones who have been brought up effectively by the state from the cradle to adulthood.
I'm sorry, he lost all credibility with me, but go ahead.
Only because he, you know, thought about feeding fucking base mama's pony, but probably
he got a load of those titties. He thought we're just gonna talk at the motel, and base mama got him there and got him in their control. And it was just like I was saying about Lord Nelson. Think about Lord Nelson.
If she's got any ginger kids, then you'll know that what's what he did.
Well, fucking man. Oh no, you know she kills them. She's got like 25 kids
right,
now.
Lads, let's stop this and actually go back.
Oh, sorry. Did I go off? Yeah, no, what were you saying? Because I cut you off. I just feel bad when no one did, because I love Dave Cullum. I do. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So basically, he's saying that, he was sort of given the impression that a lot of these kids have never had any kind of decent role models, no proper parenting to tell them yes and no. They've been brought up in the sort of environment that they are basically told how special they are, how wonderful they are. They've never been taught the most important lesson of all in life, which is how to cope with loss, how to cope with not winning, being the loser, realizing you're not the best at everything, realizing that you can be wrong sometimes, incorrect.
Quick question.
Yep.
Do you think that ideology stems from the fact of having single-parent mothers and the fact that has risen over the time between the 80s and 90s?
You brought up just the very thing I was about to mention, Common Sense.
Because it sounds to me, y'all must have watched the same Jordan Peterson video I just did, because this ties in so good. And I'm going to tell you, of all the lectures that I paid for, hundreds of hours of lectures on psychology, especially, and sociology secondarily, Dr. Jordan Peterson is by far the absolute best one. So what were you going to say? Because it sounds like we all watched the same video, or at least we're all on the same page.
Well, it's either a case of both parents needing to work because of the cost of living, well, mainly houses being so fucking expensive, or like Common Sense was saying, the amount of broken households that they come from, where it's just one single parent, and it is literally kids not being brought up in the family unit like we were traditionally. Because when you're brought up in a family, you're brought up completely different than if you're all brought up by just the state, because you're all brought up differently. You're all brought up with different ideas and different opinions
and lots of rivalries.
Lots of rivalries, yeah. And that's, but you cannot be an all-rounded person if you don't know how to accept that you're not the best at everything, and that I mean the vast majority of people are mediocre at best.
Yes.
Only very tiny percentage of people are genuinely smart and, you know, to genius level and get things wrong. Most of us are extremely fallible. So, but you know, these people are growing up, especially like that total arsehole Owen Jones. He will not debate anybody of a different ideology, and he won't talk to people, or I mean that famous interview where he walked out on that Sky interview because the interview wasn't going the way he wanted it to. It's just, you know, a spoiled little shit who can't accept that he might actually be in the wrong.
But that's the same thing for all of these champagne socialists. The same as Owen Jones, same as even Corbyn.
Laurie Penny.
The fact that they've all come from middle to higher class educations, they've all come from that type of background. Then they want to talk to people about what the lower class needs and wants when it's never even gone into a fucking private public school. Doesn't even know what's going on in those type of schools, but it says that's the way that everything needs to be. It's the same thing when people talk about Marx and Marx's economy and everything else like that. He never even ventured into a fucking factory. How the fuck could he make an assumption on what was good for the workers when he didn't even go into a factory? And that's the same ideology that's being pressed now. How can somebody that is a higher class earner and has always been able to tell you as a lower class person what you need to do to earn more money?
Yeah, Marx even allowed one of his own children to starve to death because the bone idle lazy shit wouldn't get off his ass and earn money in the same way everybody else should. How can anybody follow a fucking piece of shit like that just because they think that, oh, what's good, isn't it unfair that people who actually work harder and are more dedicated to their careers earn more than me? Tough. You don't fucking work as hard as they do, you ain't gonna get the same rewards as they do.
I love that.
That's right.
I love that. The bloke that's in this video is fucking amazing.
That's Mr. Starkey. Yes.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But I tell you what, we need more, because I mean, you look at this bloke, and I'm not sure.
Oh, that one. Yes,
I'm going to be very careful too. I can only show seconds because I'm not privy to what a common sense guy can see. So I want you to see who I'm talking about, of course, but I can't get us struck down. But
have you noticed common sense? Sorry to interrupt you there, Mr. Ogre. Professor Starkey isn't asked on to the BBC very much these days. He used to be on a lot more in sort of like the 90s.
He was Mr. BBC.
Because, I mean, he could claim to be a victim himself because he is actually a homosexual man. But
well, he's homosexual and he came from nothing. He came from nothing.
You wouldn't know that unless you read it, because he's never ever publicly talks about it.
No, never uses a lever. No. This is a guy, the only thing he uses for a lever is his British stiff lip and backbone. I mean, when this little something
bulldog
comes in and gets it, yes, a British bulldog, a true something that you would underestimate and see as, oh, look at, he's balding and he's kind of short and fat, and of course, you know, I'm Laurie Penny. I can mock him, but just look at look at what he does here. You don't even have to hear it. You just watch what he does as he comes in his hand. You know what? This is the kind of guy that flew a Spitfire over London in the Battle of Britain.
Well, the thing is,
that is the kind of man.
In this interview, what it doesn't show, it just shows the bit obviously where David Starkey, you know, basically bears back at her, and fair play to him. Before, he wasn't going to say anything. It's because in the speech he made first, she slags him off.
So it's like, and they were supposed to both speak at the same place, but she asked for some huge fee. And so they couldn't, you know, and she tried to make it like he didn't want to go and talk. No, and he talked to him like he was avoiding her. When the fact of the matter is, she asked some poor, and he even makes the point that isn't it our civic duty that if we get to a certain point in life, this guy, look, he fills me with indignation. because we should be indignant when we're in the face of Owen Jones and the like.
Just to clarify your point on Starkey, the thing is on that bit is that even though she was going to take a massive pay and transfer as well and hotel on top of that, because it was done for a particular charity, I can't remember the charity off the top of my head. Yeah, Starkey was actually going to do it for free because they couldn't pay for they couldn't pay him. So he said, "I'll do it for free, so I can actually speak there because you need it."
Yep, and I looked into it a little bit deeper to find out that the actual deal that he had with and it's the Thomas Paine Society. That's it too. Yeah, the Thomas Paine Society. And because hopefully that proves I've looked into it, because I looked down here and it doesn't say it was a Thomas Paine Society. That's just part of the argument. But so I looked into that, and yes, not only did Mr. Starkey do it for free, he refused airfare and lodging. And no per diem, because when they say for free, folks, that usually means a per diem, which is Latin for by the day, and airfare and lodging. So they'll give you airfare and lodging, and usually something around 80 quid. And yes, I know 80 quid might sound like a lot when they're paying for everything, but if you're in New York City and they give you 80 quid to go have fun, you can get a taxi somewhere. Yeah. And then you better have more money. So I mean, in other words, but he refused all of that. She didn't want a per diem or any kind of stipend, which is another fancy word that means a base pay. She didn't even go for that. She went for like a top tier lecturer's fee at their site for the Thomas Paine Society. And as he said, look, obviously I could go on, so I don't want to drag out. We've got another story here, and it's very exciting also. I just want to say this. Look, let's not forget. Let's not. David Beckham, what he plays fucking football, or who is somebody else? I don't know. Somebody new. Who are these fucking oily haired faggots that run? No, it's David Starkey. It's the David Starkeys of the world.
Hitchinson.
It's the Hitchens of the world that make the world go round, that are out there doing the work, that are saying the things that sometimes I am too cowardice to say, that have the ideas that are looked at by society as, we have to hang this person. Not only is their ideas wrong, but we have to bloody hang them. And as mentioned by Bollocks, I think, and Common Sense, you don't see much of the wonderful Mr. Starkey anymore, even though he's still in the age range where he could be doing it. They've ostracized the man. What over this Lori Penny? You can see her here in this thumbnail. Look at that. I see this is the one too where they caught her picking her nose. What a disgusting. Do you think that Mr. Starkey, knowing that there was he could have to shit so bad that if he would just fart, he would relieve pain that would make you think you were going to die. And he would be this guy. He's not going to pick his nose if there's a camera in the room. And am I saying that makes him a better person? Well, better is relative. I don't like to do the Anna Kasparian thing and say that I'm better, or he's better, or she's better. I'm saying that he is more dignified.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the actual story, I mean, I completely agree with everything that Oga said. That's why I'm not going to counter anything. There's no point. I completely agree. But going back to what the original point, as Magic Bollocks actually said, was things like the BBC and the Sky, they don't have opposing views anymore. I remember them doing a debate saying, is the centre actually needed anymore? They had 2 fucking Labour people on. It's just like, how is that even equal? As in equal from opposite sides to make a centre? It doesn't even make sense. You don't even have people that are quarrelling with Brexit anymore. They're just trying to implement a narrative to actually perpetuate, Brexit's bad. They don't actually have people come on anymore to try and defend themselves. And if it is to defend Brexit, they have about 3 people against them. And that's normally including the actual commentator that's on the show as well. That's how bad propaganda is getting on the BBC and Sky at the minute. And nobody seems to even want to call it out. I don't know. Maybe with my 200 and something subscribers, maybe I should do a couple more videos on it. I don't know. But my little reach is not going to go far. So
that's our fault. It's our fault.
Something.
At least with Sky is that if you think it's shit, then obviously you can just stop paying for it. But obviously with the BBC, it's slightly different, which is, by law, if you watch any terrestrial TV, you have to pay for them, even if you only watch terrestrial TV that is non-BBC owned.
Oh, well, you can not pay, but you go to jail, I believe.
I don't pay. I haven't paid for.
Hey,
years.
oh, you know, eventually you're going to be doxxed if you keep this up. Don't say things like that.
Well,
I'm sure that you
I
paid.
think
I'm sure you're trying to be a
there's
rebel.
quite a few of us these days who don't pay the TV license. But I don't pay it.
You mean people like the Britisher and the academic agent don't pay their license? Of course, you and common sense do.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh no, I have no idea. Who cares?
Yeah.
So you don't. It's and there. I mean, they have ways. That I know of, and I don't want to take you off topic, but as far as I know, they have like sniffers that go by and can tell if you're watching TV, and they'll come and fucking knock on your door.
Yeah, that's called bullshit, Mr. Ogre.
Yeah, that's not true.
They said they were doing that
do
like the
have that.
80s and the early noughties, as Bad Bollocks was saying. They didn't do that. That's not true.
No, the actual handheld detectors did exist, but there was nothing inside them. It was just a box.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah.
So they would come
what
and
they
say
can now-
that just to see if you were paying your bill.
Yeah. Well, what they can do now is, though, because of smart tellies, when you have to put in your location and things like this, it asks you, do you pay your TV license?
Oh man.
With the new smart TVs that have come out now, especially where I bought
Anything that says smart in the label, throw it away. Don't buy it. That means spy on yourself. That's just code word for spy on yourself.
But
yeah, and look, the IT guy laughed the loudest. That's funny.
Yeah.
No, common sense is right. All these smart TVs all have questionable capability, shall we say?
Oh, fucking bastards.
Yeah.
Fucking George Orwell, man. He's rolling over in his grave and farting as we speak. I can't even believe it. He had no idea. He thought there would be like a TV screen where we watch our damn selves, some of us. I finally, today, I was like, Mrs. Ogre, I'm not getting wood anymore. And I make the decisions, and I do, and I don't do this very often. I say I make this, and you know what? I decided it was today. I'm not carrying my fucking phone with me. I turn it off. And a couple times a day, I turn it on to see, because she's worried she's going to have a heart attack at work or something. What the fuck could I do anyway? I mean, or whatever. So but I don't even like to have it, because carrying it in your pocket, they're so specific. If you have it on, they would know if I was sitting here in the rumpus where I talk to you lot, or if I was in my laboratory, or if it was in my bathroom, or my bedroom, or my kitchen, or my dining room, or my living room, or if I was out in my grow room, or you see what I mean? They don't even know where I'm at in my property. And call me crazy, but I don't want that. It's not. It's my fucking business. Sorry. That has nothing to do with what we were talking about at all.
No, it's fine. It's not a problem. That's what the show's for.
Yeah, I know, but Bollocks was in the middle, and because look, I said it earlier on this stream, we got freedom from you lot. We got all of this. The idea of carrying a pistol, on you to protect, that's fucking the English Aristotle. That was from you lot. And now it seems like we're all going to hell in a handbasket, and a lot of the crazy shit that is anti-freedom is coming from you lot. And I don't mean, of course, you and Magic Bollocks comment, but it's like, what the fuck? How can we stop it? How can we stop people like Owen Jones, who looks like he could really give a mean blowjob? I mean, I probably wouldn't turn him down after 5 or 6 drinks. I'd give it a shot.
Well, to be fair,
to shut him up, is it?
Just to shut him up.
To be fair, let's actually get back to the story, and I think the actual headline on that is quite an interesting point in itself before actually going into the trans activist part of it. The fact that people that read and look at The Guardian think that Owen Jones is less, and Labour in itself are less feminist than a newspaper called The Spectator. That in itself shows you that the identity politics is a case of, are you a good feminist or a bad feminist? No matter how much that you want to play the ideological roles, the same as what Owen Jones does, it's a point of, if you make one mistake, you're forgotten. So why would you go into that set of ideologies in the first place?
Well, that's the thing. I think Owen Jones always goes with the ideology he thinks will make him more popular, doesn't he? He will. I mean, the fact that he was supporting that Clive Lewis before the last year's election, thinking that he was going to be the new Labour leader, because Corbyn couldn't possibly survive a general election. And then, of course, he did very, very well. Didn't win, but he still did very well. And then suddenly he's back at, Corbyn is the man we need to lead this country. He'll be the next prime minister. But you two-faced little shit. You know, just 2 months ago, you were writing him off saying he should resign, and this is the man to lead the Labour Party. You know, it's no wonder nobody's got any respect for him, because if you're going to have principles, at least fucking stick to them.
Exactly. That's the whole point of the reason why I still respect Sargon, even though he's doing whatever Sargon is doing. In some cases, it's actually quite interesting, especially the live talks and everything else of that. Very, very interesting, very good. Some of it, not so much. But
yeah, you got to respect it for never giving up. All the slack he's gotten to, man, lately. All the fucking assholes that supported him and so-called supported him, and then when he needs their support, they like jump off like rats off a fucking sinking ship.
Exactly, and not realizing that the actual Sargon that you're supposed to know and love, so to speak, is still exactly the same because he's sticking to his principles.
Great guy.
And that's what I was just about to say. He's sticking to his principles. He's doing what he says he was going to do, and he's actually trying to make a difference. How many other YouTubers, Mr. Metica, can you actually say are actually making a physical difference in life?
Yes. What, did Metica do a video on Sargon now?
No, he had a live stream with him where he said that YouTubers can't make any difference in real life.
Oh, well, I've been looking at the whole. I try not to talk about it, but I mean, you know, I watch all your videos. I haven't caught the part 2 here of this, the most recent, but just caught part 1, and you know, the whole YouTube union. I have to say, man, it sounds so inviting. I got disillusioned a couple times in my life. What up, Captain Coal Piles here? But Captain Coal Pile is probably part of the coal miners union, which is great because they actually come together. And if we all got together on YouTube, common sense, you understand how powerful that could be. The question is,
I went on to Mad Dodge Productions channel and with Voice of One as well that was on there, and me and Mad Dodge were the only ones that were willing to give the idea of a union a go out of 5 people.
Yeah, well, I'm down. I'm actually, you know, whenever I can sign up or whatever, I will be one of the original first members. It didn't sound like that gentleman had anything concrete right yet. But as soon as it started, and I don't care who starts it. I don't really, I mean, because to me, it's not about glory. Actually, the people that started are in for a long slog. If you're really a good union member, as far as the hierarchy goes, and as far as the leadership goes, that's a selfless position. It shouldn't be very, you know, you do have the Jimmy Hoffa's, you know, but for the most part, you don't know who the union bosses are, because they're people that work behind the scenes to do something that's good for the workers. In the old days, the union boss would sometimes make deals that meant the wages lowered. I know. My stepdad retired after 38 years in GM. Not every time they negotiated in 38 years did they get a raise. Sometimes, folks, they took a pay cut. Recent history, never take a pay cut. So in other words, if I was involved in a union, I would want to support people that weren't in it only for our good. It should be for our good, but it should, because what, in fact, if it is for our good, it would be for the good of YouTube. But the problem is, you know, all these things, oh God, I think you should start it, Common Sense Guy. You know, you're the most, and online, and I'm no offense to you, Magic Bollocks, but this includes you, Britisher, everybody I know. The Britisher likes to tell, you know, I shouldn't go there, so I won't. But people like to tell me, some folks have told me in the past about how trustworthy and honest they, what, you know, Common Sense Guy's never told me how trustworthy he is. Never once. In fact, he's told me in the past in weird ways that he does things and that he don't want it because, you know, I like people that don't trust themselves. So Common Sense, if you started, I'll tell you what, I'd be the second. I'd be signing up. And I think that somebody needs to get going on this thing. Somebody that's not looking for glory. Somebody that's looking to help YouTube, which would help all of us.
Exactly. But which is the reason why I defended it so much when I was on Mad Dog Productions live stream. I can't remember the name of the Red Eye. I'm sure that he would put it into the side chat if people wanted to go and watch it.
Oh, it's the Red Eye's down. They took the Red Eye down. It's the Brown Eye. Sorry. I had to do it. I was trying to make Bollocks laugh, but I must have been sensed him. He's not saying anything. Hey, Bollocks, what's said in anger, that thing will heal itself.
No, it's not that, Mr. Ogre. You did that gag last time.
Oh, which one? Oh, yes,
Very
I did,
nice.
didn't I? I did, didn't
Yeah.
I? I did. Well, I'm trying to keep it fresh and new, but then again,
Yeah.
To be fair, we've only got about 15 minutes left. Shall we hit the last story and then say our last little bits?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yes, sir.
Right. Well, I can basically do the story off the top of my head. Apart from her name, which is Monroe Bergoff or Bergodoff. Sorry,
Oh,
I
look at
won't be able to
me.
pronounce that, but just we're going to call her
How do
Monroe.
you say that,
Monroe
bollocks?
Tranny.
Oh, okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, Tranny. But basically, this person was working for L'Oreal to begin with, I believe, and she actually was sacked by saying white people were racist and things like that. She comes and then starts working for Labour as a trans advisor, so meaning that she's going to advise Labour on trans issues and what she thinks Labour should do for trans issues and things like that. Now, remember, this is during a period of time where Labour have decided that they were going to put prices up on white men for going to actually see Labour. So if you were a part of the band community, it was 20 quid to go and see him. And if you were a white man, it was 30 quid. So remember that for an instance. You had that point there, and then she still comes on to different TV shows and still says exactly the same thing as what she said when she was working for L'Oreal, which was white people are racist. They're systemically racist. They're always going to be racist and stuff along those sort of lines. So she ends up getting fired from, well, she ends up sacking herself by definition, but basically she was forcibly quit. It, to me, I find that very interesting. Why would Labour actually put that down there when they know about her history? It's quite interesting. I mean, I'm sure Magic Bollocks has got some amazing point to make on this, apart from I don't give a shit.
No, mate, what's good? I've read about this because to come out of nowhere to effectively become very well known in such a short period of time for being probably one of the biggest bigots, I think, and I don't use that word very often because it's so misused by people because they don't even understand what the word bigot means. A bigot is supposed to be somebody who refuses to see another person's point of view, not somebody who automatically hates black people or anything like that. But this tranny twat fuckface arsehole, and I don't even want to call it a she because I know calling it a he would piss it off because it's such an obnoxious, horrible shitbag of a human being that it would, you know, get this job as a model, even though it's about as attractive as my fucking dick. She, yeah, I know you've seen it. The fact she, you know, got this job at L'Oreal, then gets sacked because they found out all the shit she put on social media. She then goes and does that mini documentary for the B, well, not documentary, that BBC short, because Sargon did a video on it where basically says that the white race are the most destructive force the earth has ever known and all this other shit. And then, funny enough, you do know the MP that gave her the job, don't you?
The fucking secretary, I can't remember.
The ones whose name you mentioned earlier on, funny enough.
Oh, it was Dawn Butler.
Dawn Butler, yes, funnily enough. Another one who got selected from the All Women's shortlist. And
yeah.
in her, have you seen her actual resignation speech? It's
No, I haven't,
speech.
but I bet it's funny as hell.
Not once in it does it take the blame for its own actions. It's all the fault of the far right wing press. yeah. It was the witch hunt after the bigoted, racist, white man's right wing press had gone after it. That was the reason why it couldn't take the abuse anymore, rather than saying because of the disgusting views I actually have. Now, a lot of people do have the opinion that most trannies are actually just severely mentally ill homosexuals. In this respect, she isn't really winning me over against that argument, because even though I do believe there is such a thing as gender dysphoria, this Monroe thing is just the ultimate attention seeker and is doing everything it can to get attention to itself. And at the moment, again, it's worked out that playing a victim because it happens to be half black and happens to be a transsexual is going to give it the most amount of attention it can do. Because I'm sure that it's made plenty of money out of all this. I mean, even though the supposed role of LGBTQDC, AFC, KFC, MFI, RVM advisor, even though the advisor is supposed to be a non-paid position, you know damn well that it was making money somewhere. It would have been given articles to write in the Guardian and the Independent and all that other shit. So it is the absolute worst kind of human being, really, isn't it? It's all about them. They don't care how much they have to lie, how much of a scumbag they have to be, as long as it gets them attention and it makes them money. And
well, that's something that seems to be happening with most people that seem to be on that type of ideology. I want. I'm not taking any sort of personal responsibilities whatsoever. Nothing that person or that thing has ever done has ever been to the point of her taking responsibility for anything she's done. The only thing that she might have taken responsibility for is the fact that she thinks that she's trans. Now, like yourself, I do think that it is a mental illness by the definition of gender dysphoria. So I am completely with you on that point. Now, does that mean that I don't want them to be around? No, I don't. I don't really care. That you can go and do what you want. It doesn't bother me. The same as people that are psychotic. I don't really have a problem with them. It's not their fault, so to speak. They have a condition, have an issue. That's the thing that we need to actually talk about. And the fact that people actually give people that are mentally ill, and that's what it is, unfortunately, positions of power that are that high up is worrying. The same as we were talking about before about women-only shortlists, about for self-identifying trans people. That's also very worrying to me. Not because somebody like ourselves would make it a laugh and a joke and say, well, yeah, today I'm a man, or today I'm a woman, or today I'm gender fluid, and tomorrow I'm fluidity of gender, or whatever. That's not what the point is. It's scary to me because people that have mental conditions are starting to lead the country and lead the country to where it's supposed to be going, apparently. And that's what's scary to me. The fact that we're letting people with mental illnesses run the fucking asylum. And that's a worry to me.
Yeah, it is. And the very fact that nobody thought for a second that we shouldn't be taking this person on. They are toxic. Because there was also that one who wrote for the Spectator. Is it Toby Jones or Toby? Can't remember.
The Conservative.
The one who writes for the Spectator, who got the job on the Education Advisory Committee.
Yeah, he's a Conservative. He's a Conservative.
He is Conservative, right? Yeah, and he had to quit literally within a couple of days of getting the post because he had a tweet about 5 or 6 years ago, basically talking about a woman he was working with, or some woman anyway, and he's basically saying like, oh, she's got nice tits and all that. And of course, all the fucking typical Labour feminists like Jess Phillips and all the other trash was saying like, oh, what if we can't have a sexist like him on the panel?
Tits.
So he obviously had to stand down because of that. But when the wonderful reveal about Brendan Cox, you know, the husband of poor old Saint Joe of Cox, who died defending our democratic right to stay in the European Union.
Well, you're kidding. Saint Joe of Cox? Are you making that up?
It's being facetious.
Yeah, I'm being a little bit facetious there, but she's the one who got killed during the EU referendum. Her husband was the one who had to leave Save the Children. He was like he wasn't the CEO, but he was one of the higher ups. And it transpired
Wasn't he one of the founders?
He could well have been. I just know he was he was one of the higher ups, but he had to stand down because apparently there was a pending investigation into sexual misconduct going on about him. So he stood down rather than have this investigation go any further. Then it transpires he's been up to various other shenanigans with women ever since, and has even now admitted it. Now, why aren't the same Labour female feminist MPs deriding him as some kind of sick pervert? No, they were all saying about, oh, isn't it wonderful how he said he's going to change and that oh, he's going to reform himself. Bullshit. All this ever is that if you're on the right political ideology, then you can get away with absolutely anything.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's more of the case that he is friends with Jess Phillips. And if any female politician on Labour's side, at least, is going to go against him, they're going to have to go against Jess Phillips first. And obviously, her being the women's shadow secretary, they're not going to get very far.
Well,
so basically, you could say it is being buried just because they're friends.
I almost got some vodka today, but I think I'm getting dengue fever. You know, the old fucking what you call it. So I got a little quinine, and because you got to tell yourself sometimes when you're an alkie like me that what you're doing is medicinal. And so I'm telling myself today that I had, dengue fever and that I need a little bit of quinine. So I got gin, the old Bombay Sapphire, so wonderful too, so nice. If y'all, it's made in England. If y'all have not had that, I pay a premium for it here too. I mean, what would probably, I mean, how much is a fifth of Bombay there?
Wouldn't have a clue, mate.
Yeah, never bought it.
Right. Well, here it's 35 quid. So I mean, that's high. That's a lot for booze when you can get a fifth of Jack Daniels, same amount of Jack Daniels, somewhere around 22 quid. So it's that much more. And it's anyway. So anyway, what were we talking about? I'm gonna have another shot. I love this shit. You gotta tell yourself that
5 minutes to the end anyway. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes to the end, so we might as well get off. So, Magic Bollocks, if you want to go first on a final word, then please be my guest.
Just okay. This one thing I said, it brought it all crashing to an end. I'm so sorry, everybody watching.
That's all right, Mr. Ogre. That's what you do best, mate. That's why we love you. I want to say to everybody, God's sake, never ever let ideology poison your mind. Never ever allow yourself to be put into a niche little box and told that you're a victim. And always treasure the ability to think for yourself and to use critical thinking to realize that most of what you're told is absolute shit. And that you can make your own decisions, you can come to your own conclusions, and you can understand that a very high percentage of what you hear these days, especially from the mainstream, is utter bollocks. So do yourself a favor. Tune in to people like myself, Mr. Ogre or Mr. Common Sense, and many other treasured YouTubers. No matter how corrupted they may get by financial incentives, most of them are still trying to spread the good word. The internet has given us a wonderful ability to talk directly to ourselves these days, which is why the mainstream media hates us. We haven't got their filter on world events anymore. We're able to tell each other the truth. We're all learning wonderful truths about what's going on. And one day it might even help us to liberate ourselves from the supposed overlords who want to shape this world into their own little utopia, I suppose, is probably the best way to describe it. It won't work. It can't work. It never will work. We all just have to try and improve our own lot in our own little ways. We all want to have a good life. We all want to enjoy ourselves. We all want to better ourselves, but it's better if we do it in our own way rather than being told how to do it. I hope that made sense anyway. So whatever you do, don't vote Labour, but then don't vote Conservative either. And if you're in America, definitely don't vote Democrat, but do vote for Donald Trump. Don't vote for the Republicans, vote for Donald Trump. And I really hope one day my workmates hear this. And if you do, I don't fucking care because you're all dickheads. Right. Thank you very much, everybody in the chat. Interesting as always. You're all insane. Thank you very much, Mr. Ogre. Entertaining as always. And thank you very much, Common Sense, for letting us on your channel, mate. All the best.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate. Ogre, if you will, please.
Yes, genuine love and respect to all those I know IRL. To the rest of you, slag off. No, in truth and honesty, due to algorithms beyond my control, there will be an after party as there was on Wednesday. So I do, first and foremost, invite you to join me directly after this broadcast on the Ogre channel. Will not be long. Trying to lead up into the red eye. So, if you were smart, you wouldn't try to compete with me, Matt Dutch. Just a head up to you because I'll ruin your numbers in the beginning. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us on this Friday. I know that sometimes some of you all are listening out there in the bar, and I'm using Captain Colepile's analogy here. I love that we're the band and you're out there in the bar doing your thing. I know sometimes the band is not playing music that, appeals to everyone out in the bar, but you have to be considerate to your other bar mates, because on the days that, you're like, well, they're being serious and they're talking about hijabs on models and Donald Trump and, and all, they're talking about these things, and Ogre's getting indignant on his soapbox, and Common Sense is being, realistic about things and talking about shit that actually matters in life. And I just want to go on. But we understand. We want to go on with our lives too. We want to have a good time. We want to take the piss once in a while. We love to pull the old Mickey Bliss right up the reeking Thames. We do. That's something that we enjoy. We like to do it as a group, and we do. So we invite you to join us on Wednesdays when that's exactly what we do, what we plan on doing. And sometimes we don't on those days. Sometimes we actually get serious. Oh, heaven forbid that we make a plan to be, taking the Mickey and we get a little serious, or that we plan to be serious and we take the Mickey. But, well, that's what makes the world go round. So that said, we just want to thank all of you for hanging in here with us. You all mean more to us than you know, and it is because you're a number there. It's because the people that I see here, Sardonic 7, the Voice of One, Loafer Sheffield, Mad Dodge Production, Matt Barkley, of course, Jensen Quinn. I'm going to have to go back up and look now if I'm going to try to just pull more off the top of my head. There are other people, Captain Colepile, of course, many others. It's not that you are legion. It's, as we were talking before the stream today, it's that you are so loyal, and that we look and we see the same 40 to 70 people, somewhere in that number, that revolve around. There's a few that are always here, but there's others that revolve around, which leaves this nice congregation. And for that, I'm going to just leave off before I run everybody out. We got a good group here, and I want y'all to hear what Common Sense has to say. I have a feeling it'll be more deep than what I've had to say. This was more narcissistic and egocentric and all the things that I rail against, because I am those things, and I know how bad they are. I know how terrible it is that I think that our shit is the coolest shit on YouTube. And I do think that. I listen to our stuff. I go back. I'm so narcissistic. I will listen to this probably sometime around Monday. I will pop this on my iPod and listen to it on my Bluetooth while I do my work and laugh at our own jokes. So we just thank you so much for allowing us to do this. We've not gotten any strikes. We've not gotten any of those things. None of the uncomfortable stuff on this platform. And as I turn it over to my beloved host tonight, just want to thank you too, Magic Box. You mean more to me than I'll let on, because I don't want to give you a big head. You've already got one. And you know what, Common? Same to you. I love you both. Very honored to be here. But that said, it's all about you all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being loyal. And you mean more to us than you know.
Thank you very much for that, Ogre. Thank you very much. I'm probably going to quickly second what Magic Bollocks has actually said about the fact of don't get sucked into doctrine, don't get sucked into the ideas that are being perpetuated, don't get sucked into mainstream media. Go out, do your own research, find out what's going on, use your own mind. Don't follow things because your mate Timmy down the road said that it's a good idea. Don't follow it because your girlfriend said that she won't have sex with you otherwise. Actually do your own research. Find out what's going on. Decide what you want to do. If you want to vote for a particular way, vote a particular way. As long as it's your decision and not put on by somebody else because your dad supports this team or your mum supports that way. Do it because you want to do it and because you've done your own research. Don't follow it because of dogma. Don't follow it because of rhetoric. Don't follow it because your teacher says that it's good, and if you don't, you're going to fail. Just do what you need to do. The same thing as what you would do in a work position. You would do the job to a point, and if somebody asks you to do something you know is not part of your job, you tell them to fuck off. And that's the best analogy that I can use for political views. Follow it to the point where you think, wait a minute, that doesn't sound fucking right. And when you get to that point, tell the person that you're with to go away because that person is only going to lead you down into indoctrination. And we have enough of those people around in the world at the moment. And to pull on from a point of obviously saying as well that what Magic Bollocks and myself alluded on to earlier on, that gender dysphoria is a mental disease, a mental condition, so to speak. Ogre's also mentioned it many times before about being DCM and whatever. So it's a case of, it is that. Why are we giving people that have mental conditions spaces and spots that are in Parliament or advisory to Parliament? And nobody is picking up on those type of things. Yes, it's okay to let people that have mental conditions carry on and live their own lives. And nobody's saying that it's not all right for them to do that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, how can you put people with mental conditions into places where they're going to make decisions and life-changing decisions and affects millions of people as well? You wouldn't want to put somebody who's psychopathic, and I use that word perfectly. You wouldn't want to use somebody who's psychopathic as somebody who's going to choose what's going to go on for people, because that person is self-centered and doesn't understand how social standings actually happen. They pretend, they act. Simon a psychopath has no interest in what's going to go on and things like that. You would not put those type of people into power. So why would you put somebody that has the highest rate out of any demographic of committing suicide, that is immensely depressed? Why would you put somebody like that that's in power? Now, I'm not trying to say that those people need to be eradicated or anything else like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that those people need to be put away or treated or whatever. I'm just saying, why do we vote them in? Why are we so indoctrinated into believing that this is okay? Because it's not okay. We wouldn't do it for any other mental condition. So why do we do it for this? Why are we not treating it anymore? And why are we just letting it carry on? With that being said, I think I'm going to leave it there. So I'm going to bid you farewell. I'm going to bid you adieu. And I'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye for now.